I discovered that my husband had an affair with my own sister, and my family had deliberately kept it a secret. I chose revenge. Perhaps the easiest way to begin is with an introduction and a little description of my family. My name is Maya, and I have just got the most devastating news of my life. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my family. I've always known I wasn't the favorite. Nobody ever said it directly, but you can feel it in your bones. It's the way your parents look at you against your siblings, how they communicate with you, and how they always choose them in both tiny and huge situations. My older sister, Chloe, was always the golden kid, the one who could do no wrong and received all of the love and attention while I watched from the background. Growing up, it was painfully clear. If Chloe had a good grade, it was saved in the refrigerator. If I received a decent mark, they gave me a brief smile before returning to chatting about Chloe's accomplishments. I was her shadow. Despite everything, I never loathed her. Sure, I despised my parents putting her on a pedestal, but Chloe was my sister, and I loved her. I assumed it was not her fault that my parents treated us differently. I assumed that was enough. Even if things weren't fair in childhood, we'd figure it out as adults, and our relationship would be balanced. But I was dreadfully mistaken. 2 days ago, everything fell apart. It was meant to be a wonderful evening. My parents had asked us for dinner to celebrate Chloe's pregnancy. I felt truly thrilled for her. Chloe and her husband Liam had been trying to have a baby for a long time, and I understood how important it was to her to have a family. So I attended, despite the underlying unease I'd always had around my relatives. It was a constant reminder that I wasn't good enough, that I was constantly second behind Chloe. Ethan, my husband, was by my side, as he had done for the previous 5 years. He understood how hard my connection with my family was, and he was always my anchor, the only person who made me feel seen. Or so I thought. Dinner was normal, even enjoyable. We gathered around the table, laughing and sharing Chloe's excellent news. My parents, as predicted, were ecstatic about Chloe's pregnancy, as if she had created parenting. But this didn't surprise me anymore. I smiled and complimented her while pretending everything was okay. Then I accidentally overheard my parents talk, and my entire world crumbled. Following supper, I excused myself to visit the restroom. On my way home, I went by the kitchen and overheard my parents whispering. I should have kept walking, but something about their whispered tone stopped me. And then I heard it. My mother said they would never inform me about Chloe's error. At first, I was perplexed, wondering what mistake they were referring to. But then the answer struck me like a smack in the face. They were talking about Chloe sleeping with my husband Ethan. Apparently, it had happened months before, and they had opted not to inform me in order to protect Chloe's reputation, because she was their lovely daughter and did not deserve to have her image ruined. They described it as a simple mistake, a slip in judgment that should be forgiven, because what mattered was that Chloe became pregnant. I stood paralyzed, unable to move or breathe. The walls appeared to be closing in around me. My mind was filled with incredulity, betrayal, and wrath. My spouse, my partner, the man I trusted with my life, cheated on me with my own sister. Worse, my parents knew. They had kept it a secret because they wanted to protect Chloe rather than give me the truth. They selected her over me again. I felt like all of my years of feeling less worthy had been vindicated. They'd made their decision, and it wasn't mine. I don't even recall how I left that house that night. I dimly recall murmuring something about feeling ill and having to go. I couldn't face them, not my parents, nor Chloe, and particularly not Ethan. So I just left, got into my car, and drove. But I can't recall where I went. I simply needed to get away from them, from the reality of what I had just learned. I felt as if my entire existence was a terrible joke, that nothing made sense anymore, and that I was plummeting into an abyss with no way out. It's been 2 days, and I'm still struggling to process it. I have not faced anyone yet. I haven't spoken to Ethan much since that night. He keeps asking me what's wrong and why I'm so aloof, but I can't even look him in the eye, let alone speak to him. Every time I see him, all I can think of is him and my sister Chloe. How could he have done this to me? How could she and my parents hide it like it didn't matter, as if I didn't exist? I keep revisiting that conversation in my memory, hearing my parents tell Chloe that her mistake would not ruin her life, that it was simply a moment of weakness. But how about my life? How about my marriage? Didn't it matter? Didn't I matter? I feel erased, like I'm a supporting role in a story that should have been mine, but it's always about Chloe. They will always protect her, regardless of what she does or how much she hurts me. And now I'm gathering up the pieces, trying to find out how to move forward after everything I thought I knew has been flipped upside down. I honestly do not know what to do. I'm not sure whether I should face Ethan and demand the truth, or talk to my parents and tell them how much they've wounded me. I'm not sure who to face first. I'm not even sure whether I have the strength to face Chloe. The notion of speaking with her and hearing any explanation she may have for betraying me makes me sick to my stomach. But I can't keep living this way, pretending everything is fine when it isn't. I can't hold this secret inside, allowing it to taint my every thought and moment. Part of me wants to scream at them, telling them how much they've wounded me and damaged. But another part of me wants to leave, run away, and never look back. I'm not sure which segment to listen to. I'm not even sure whether there's a good choice here. All I know is that I am entirely broken, and I have no idea how to put myself back together. My entire life, I felt like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't matter. And now, after all of this, it appears that has been confirmed. My parents have made it obvious that Chloe will always be their top priority, regardless of what she does or who she hurts. So where does it leave me? How can I move forward when the people who were supposed to love and protect me have repeatedly chosen someone else? I do not have the answers. I wish I had. I wish I knew what to do, how to mend it, or even how to move on. But right now, all I feel is tremendous betrayal and pain, and I have no idea how to stop it. That's why I'm here, writing this post, hoping that someone, anybody, will tell me what to do, since I feel like I'm falling apart and have no idea how to stop it. I understand that it is easy to form an opinion from the outside, and that is exactly what I am seeking for. But on the inside, it feels overwhelming. It's been over 2 weeks since my initial post. I have had time to think, feel, and plan. I was initially paralyzed by the agony, uncertainty, and betrayal. However, that immobility has dissipated, giving way to something colder, sharper, and far more frightening. At first, I believed confronting Ethan, Chloe, and my parents would provide some closure. But now I've decided on something completely different. Yes, I will face them, but not by yelling, crying, or demanding explanations. Instead, I want them to feel the suffering I've been through. I desire vengeance. I intend to get my revenge in the most complete manner possible while adhering to the letter of the law. For the past 2 days, I have been meticulous and patient. They believe I know nothing and am a second-rate daughter and wife who simply smiles and agrees on everything. Let them continue to believe that, because in the meantime, I've been working in silence, accumulating proof to back up everything I heard that night. Betrayal always leaves a trail, even if the betrayer believes they have hidden their tracks. And I'm determined to reveal every information they thought was hidden. First, let me tell you about the baby shower. Yes, there was a baby shower. A few days after my last post, my mother contacted me in her typical happy tone, pretending nothing had occurred, as if she hadn't been a part of this tremendous betrayal. She asked if I would host Chloe's baby shower because, to my family, I am essentially a servant, and of course, I would be in charge of it. Perhaps if the circumstances were reversed, she would not have asked my sister to host this event. Yes, she wanted me to commemorate the guy who had ruined my marriage and life. The arrogance left me dumbfounded for a moment. But then it occurred to me that I could turn this to my advantage. This could be an excellent time to lay the groundwork for what's coming. Of course, I agreed. I answered sure, making sure my tone did not reveal my genuine intentions. She was overjoyed, nearly euphoric. "Chloe will be so happy," she remarked. I grinned through the phone, thinking about how thrilled Chloe would be to find out what I had planned for her. But before I made my move, I needed to gather as much as I could. I became nearly obsessed with discovering every last secret, message, and piece of proof proving exactly what they had done to me. While Ethan slept, I went through his phone, laptop, and even his old backups. At first, I wasn't sure what I'd find. Perhaps they were clever enough to hide their footprints. However, when people believe they have control, they tend to become careless. The first piece of proof appeared in the form of a secret folder on his phone. He thought he was clever by giving it a simple name, but I knew him too well. There were photographs within, photos of him with Chloe. And, as it turned out, it wasn't a one-time event, but rather an elaborate one. At first glance, some of the images appeared innocent, but others clearly revealed their relationship. My stomach churned as I stared at them, but I didn't stop. Over the next few evenings, I continued digging. Text messages, emails, and archived social media messages. I discovered chats between Chloe and Ethan, some from months ago, when they discussed how careful they had to be to keep me from finding out. Their remarks cut like knives, yet they also fueled me. They had been so casual about it, as if I were just an impediment in their path. But the big shock came when I discovered text between my parents and Chloe. My mother, in particular, had been actively involved in keeping everything a secret. There were discussions about how Maya did not need to know and the significance of protecting Chloe's reputation. Chloe even provided Ethan screenshots of these communications to reassure him that my parents were on their side and didn't have to worry about me finding out. I felt ill to my stomach when reading it. They didn't care that I was their daughter. All they were concerned about was Chloe's reputation. I've saved everything. Every image, communication, and piece of evidence was now safely kept on my devices. I backed everything up just in case. I was not going to rush. I was going to wait for the right opportunity to strike. Maybe at the baby shower, maybe later. But I'd make certain that when everything came crashing down, it would be catastrophic. They wouldn't know what had hit them. Update 2. It's been about a week since my previous post, and I have so much to share, but I'm not sure where to start. Yesterday's events felt like they happened in a dream or possibly a nightmare. It depends on whoever you ask. I spent the entire day at Chloe's baby shower, pretending to be the perfect hostess while hiding my inner turmoil. The facade was meticulously designed. I was the devoted sister, happy daughter, and faithful wife. Everyone was present. Family, friends, and Chloe's spouse. None of them had any idea of the impending chaos. The celebration itself was a lavish affair, and my mother was overjoyed, ensuring everything was perfect for tiny Chloe. My parents had no idea that the true present would be for me, a gift that will ruin the neatly crafted universe they had built. I was acutely conscious of my fast-beating heart. My pulse quickened not from exhilaration, but from the impending mayhem. As the day went, I engaged in pleasant conversations, laughed at superficial jokes, and organized the many baby gifts that stacked up on the table. All the while, I was acutely aware of the ticking time bomb about to blow. I could see Chloe enjoying the attention. Her smile would fade quickly, but the more she believed she had gotten away with it, the better my payback would be. The time comes when they cut the cake. Everyone applauded and praised her, and I felt my heart race even faster as I prepared to give Chloe with my special gift. I told everyone it came from the heart, but deep down I knew it came from the depths of my anguish. Then I stood up to address the gathering, and the room became quiet. Chloe smiled at me, clearly excited, as she grabbed for the beautifully wrapped box I had worked so hard to offer. Delicate paper and an elaborate bow were all intended to heighten anticipation and make it appear like a very valuable gift, which it was. People flocked around Chloe to get a better look as she started to open it. Inside were printed photographs of her and Ethan in highly compromising circumstances. Intimate moments captured in time. The types of photos you wouldn't want your family to view. I had deliberately chosen the most damaging ones, those that proved their betrayal in an obvious and indisputable manner. Chloe's countenance changed from joy to perplexity, then fear, as she examined the contents of the box. The atmosphere in the room changed as individuals recognized what was going on and the significance of the shot to everyone involved. Chloe, me, and my husband. But I wasn't finished yet. As rumors began, and people began to question Chloe or me, I pulled back the decorative curtains, displaying enlarged versions of similar images displayed prominently. The truth was now on display for anyone to see. A collection of betrayal, documenting the affair that wrecked my life. Chloe's face went white, blood draining from her cheeks, making her appear ghostly. Her hands trembled as she attempted to comprehend what was occurring. My parents automatically tried to interfere, but I refused to be silenced. I took a deep breath and allowed the words to flow. I recounted the entire affair, including how they had helped cover it up, and everything was okay while Chloe betrayed me to my husband. Chloe's husband, absolutely stunned, stormed out of the room, yelling at her, calling her a cheater, and expressing incredulity that she could do all of this. Perhaps it was a similar demonstration and emotion that I experienced as I worked through the entire affair. My parents were speechless, unable to defend their precious child this time. As I revealed the disaster Chloe had made, the universe they had carefully built around her began to crumble. Standing in the crowd, I had a peculiar feeling. A sensation of relief washed over me. Some folks offered me consolation, but I didn't need it at the time, because I had completed the necessary tasks. So I collected my items and walked away. Update 3. 2 weeks have gone since my last update, and I believe the dust has settled sufficiently to relate what remains of my shock and astonishment at the baby shower, as well as the ramifications for all those engaged in the treachery. The night I revealed everything, I left the party as soon as I finished my presentation. I had no desire to communicate with anyone or face the reactions of individuals who had previously been my family. I had no idea what happened next until Chloe's friend, or rather, her former friend, contacted me a few days later to ask me a few things. This person, one of Chloe's closest confidants, started the talk with a tone ranging from disbelief to disgust. She told me that after what I had revealed, she had realized Chloe's true personality. In her words, if Chloe could fool her own sister with her husband, who can say she won't do the same to her? The betrayal she observed at the party had made her very skeptical, and she felt she couldn't have a friendship with someone like that. During our talk, she sought suggestions on how to examine her spouse to ensure that he was not concealing anything similar. I instructed her to closely examine his social media communications, text messages, and any interactions on his phone that appeared suspect. I also made it obvious that if she discovered anything major, I would wait for her to share. I thought many of you would want to know as well. But that wasn't everything she told me. Apparently, after I left the party, the venue had devolved into a complete battle zone. When Chloe's in-laws saw what was going on, they screamed and made accusations. Chloe's in-laws were outraged and disappointed, spitting harsh and disrespectful comments at her for what she had done. My father, with what dignity he had left, attempted to interfere to protect his daughter, arguing that Chloe was pregnant and that they shouldn't speak to her in that way. But Chloe's father-in-law didn't mince words, retorting that their lovely daughter was nothing more than a whore of Babylon. Let's just say he used a more vulgar term. That phrase struck my father like a dagger, and he lunged at Chloe's father-in-law, wanting to settle matters violently. That didn't go so well for him. Chloe's father-in-law delivered a single punch, knocking him to the ground. He did not lose consciousness, but instead lay on the floor, possibly out of embarrassment or dread of suffering another punch. Not only were the men willing to fight, Chloe's mother-in-law, outraged by what had happened, began to verbally assault my mother, who refused to back down, calling Chloe's father-in-law an ape for beating her husband. This caused the other woman to rush at her. The scene was horrific. I heard that Chloe's mother-in-law tugged my mother's hair so hard that they had to be separated. My mother ended up losing a large amount of her hair, and someone even suggested that she might start thinking about getting wigs. Several people attempted to break up the incident before it developed further. I'll admit that deep down, I regretted not remaining at the party to see how my present was received. It's the same sensation you get when you miss school on the most important day of the year. But, despite my curiosity, I realized it was for the best. I left to keep my head clear and avoid being caught up in guilt and chaos. Surprisingly, Chloe escaped this event bodily unharmed. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because she was pregnant, and all there, even the most enraged, had the self-control not to physically kill her. Though there was a good chance the baby she was carrying was my husband's, it wasn't the child's fault that its mother was such a cheater and traitor. Update 4. My ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, has made significant improvement. I served him with the divorce papers as soon as I had them processed. He was not pummeled at the party, and I believe he was clever enough to remain mute and attempt to blend in with the crowd. He stayed silent, keeping his head down as if he wished not to be noticed. Apparently, this tactic worked since he escaped the punch from Chloe's father-in-law, which he deserved more than anyone else, especially since her father-in-law was so eager to administer it. When he arrived home, he discovered that all of his stuff had been tossed out on the grass. I did not leave any of his belongings inside. Everything was on the grass, waiting for him to receive the message. He didn't say anything or knock on the door to speak with me. He simply gathered his belongings and departed. At least he took the hint. We are currently waiting to see what will happen to the house after the divorce is official. In the previous 2 weeks, neither my sister nor my family has sought to contact me. Not to apologize, nor to vent their rage on me, which does not surprise me. Even though I was the one who was most affected by all of this, aside from my father's humiliation, they lacked the guilt and regret to reach out and apologize. This verifies what I have always suspected. Whatever happens, Chloe will always be their number one priority. This public betrayal and humiliation, however devastating, do not appear to be enough to cause them to ponder. I've spent my entire life looking for a place in my family, a way to be recognized and loved, but these incidents have taught me that it will never happen. No matter how badly they harmed me or betrayed my trust, I will always be the daughter they can ignore. Update 5. I like that saying. Everyone has a plan until they are punched in the face. And this is exactly what happened to my ex-husband. But let me not get ahead of myself and describe what has happened in the last few months. It turns out that Chloe's friend, who I assisted in her inquiry, discovered that her husband was also cheating on her with my sister. As you would expect, she approached him right away. During the dispute, my pal mentioned that my ex was also involved in the situation. What exactly did her husband do? Without saying anything, he drove straight to my sister's house, where she was living with my ex. They both assumed the kid she was carrying was his. What comes next is the finest part. The dude punched my ex directly in the face. So, despite avoiding a punch during the party, he eventually received what he deserved. Apparently, my ex chose to sue him for that punch, but I'm not sure what occurred, and frankly, I don't care. My sister's husband left shortly after discovering the situation and filed for divorce. That divorce has yet to be finalized, most likely due to the presence of a baby, which takes longer to complete. My divorce, on the other hand, was finalized approximately a month ago. For those of you who are wondering about the assets, the house we shared was sold, and the proceeds were split evenly. We were not required to pay alimony, and because we did not have children, the process was simplified. I believe that the fact that my divorce was resolved fast exacerbated the stress surrounding my sister. Returning to my ex, after receiving that punch in the face, he received an emotional blow when he discovered that he might not be the father of the child in my sister's womb. In an ironic turn of events, he chose to leave my sister's residence, unable to stomach the thought that she may be cheating on him. This portion makes me giggle, but it also makes me ponder about the reasoning behind adultery and people like it. How can someone who is willing to cheat on their relationship with someone else be hurt when their partner cheats on them? Perhaps I don't understand the envy in that case since, fortunately, I'm a decent person who has never been compelled to betray somebody in that way. His hypocrisy is so obvious it's almost laughable. But the situation doesn't end there, since there's an unforeseen twist. My sister's baby was born, and as you could expect, a DNA test was performed immediately. It comes out that my ex is not the father. The infant was the child of Chloe's best friend's husband, who filed for divorce after learning of the affair. What struck me was that, while this man was the father, there was probably another candidate. Knowing my sister and how she has handled things throughout this, I wouldn't be surprised if there were more contenders for paternity. Honestly, given who my dad and sister are, this is not unusual for them. It is simply another Tuesday for them. They don't care how bizarre the scenario becomes since they are so used to living in chaos and drama. And, no, neither my parents nor my sister have contacted me since. But this time, and only this time, I'm going to give them the doubt and assume that it's not because they don't value me as a daughter or sister. Perhaps they're too preoccupied with the calamity they've created for themselves. Update 6. First and foremost, let me to clarify something, as it appears that some people missed the sarcasm in my previous update. When I stated I was giving my family the benefit of the doubt, I was joking. No, I don't believe they've ever actually cared, and even if there wasn't a scandal of this scale, they wouldn't bother to contact you. Moving on, my sister has had to move back in with my parents. Why? Well, the baby's biological father opted not to stay with her, and while he had also been unfaithful, I understood why. Staying with someone as untrustworthy as my sister seems like more of a punishment than a reward. So, alone and with a baby, she returned to the only location where she was still warmly welcomed, my parents' house. My sister's divorce resulted in a favorable outcome for my former brother-in-law. The house they shared was sold, and he was not required to pay child support or alimony. I believe this was the best-case scenario for him. Now he can leave this situation with no financial or personal links to my sister. It's as if life gave him a one-way ticket, and I can't imagine a happier ending for him. Chloe's buddy likewise concluded her divorce, and things appear to have settled down in terms of peace and counting punches. Despite everything that has happened, it is evident that many of the characters in this story deserve another punch. For the time being, the reality TV shows have come to an end, but the memories will live on in the minds and on the faces of all those involved.